No one in my family talks about my uncle anymore, not since the Christmas when he didn't leave footprints in the snow. I was 9 years old when it happened, old enough to remember details and to feel when something was wrong, but too young to understand why adults lie with their eyes instead of their mouths. That Christmas Eve, my parents dropped me off at my grandmother's house just before sunset, the sky grey and heavy like it was holding its breath, snow covering everything so clean it felt fake, like a movie set. Grandma hugged me tight and told me to stay inside that night no matter what I heard. And when I asked what I could possibly hear, she didn't answer. The house smelled like pine needles and burnt cookies. Christmas lights blinked unevenly. One bulb flickering was struggling to stay alive, and my Uncle Mark was already there sitting by the tree. He waved at me, but something felt off, because Uncle Mark had always been loud and joking. And that night, he didn't speak at all, just stared at the tree like he was waiting for it to move. Dinner passed in silence with no music and no laughter, only forks scraping plates. And at exactly 11:58 p.m, the power went out and the house dropped into darkness. Grandma stood up so fast her chair fell over, and she told everyone to go upstairs immediately, but Uncle Mark didn't move. And when the clock hit 12 a.m, the front doorbell rang once slow and heavy, and no one breathed. Grandma whispered that it was him. Mom grabbed my arm and told me not to look out the windows. And then the doorbell rang again, followed by knocking that wasn't angry or rushed, just polite, like whoever was outside knew they would eventually be let in. Uncle Mark finally stood and said he'd handle it, the first words he'd spoken all night, and Grandma screamed for him to stop, but he was already walking to the door. I don't know why I followed him, he'd be curiosity or instinct, or maybe something wanted me to see. But when he opened the door, cold air rushed in and snow drifted inside, even though the porch was empty except for footprints that started at the edge of the porch and ended right in front of Uncle Mark, without coming from the yard or the street, like they had simply appeared. A voice spoke from the darkness, sounding like a man trying to remember how to be human, saying that Uncle Mark had left it out last year, and Uncle Mark whispered that he'd been promised he was free, and after a pause the voice laughed and said it had promised to come back. Something tall and wrong moved in the dark, its smile stretching wider than a mouth should, and it said Uncle Mark had kept the gift, and that a gift required a gift. Uncle Mark turned around and looked at me, and in that moment I understood, because last Christmas his son had gone missing and everyone said he ran away, but they were lying. Uncle Mark said he was sorry, and then the thing took him gently, not violently, like a parent guiding a child, and Uncle Mark didn't scream as he vanished into the dark. The door slammed shut on its own, the power came back on, the clock read 12:01 a.m, and no one spoke as Grandma collapsed to the floor crying. My parents took me home without saying a word, and the next morning, there were no footprints on the porch, and no sign anyone had ever been there, except for a present under the tree wrapped in old yellow paper, with my name written on it, and Grandma burned it without opening it, telling me that it liked curious children, and never brought the same gift twice. That was 20 years ago, and last night my doorbell rang at exactly 12 a.m, and I don't have a porch, but when I looked down, there were footprints in the snow stopping right at my door, and this time they were barefoot.